So yeah, what was life like before askmyGP? We were getting to the point where we couldn't manage the workload and we needed to make some changes. We have a pretty large patient population, but they're quite educated population, high socioeconomic group, so quite health aware, so huge volumes of calls.
Life before askmyGP was quite manic in the way that patients were constantly ringing and they were in a queue, and some patients were 30th. So before they'd even spoke to us, they were angry.
Well, there was scepticism, as there always will be with these things. I mean, I've been at this practice for over 20 years, so it's a significant change in how I work. So for some of the older partners and some of the older GPs, it was a bit of a stretch. And there was an investment side to it as well, which is always makes you ask questions. But we knew we had to do something, and after discussing it, we thought, yeah, we'll go down this route and see. Before we even started doing it, the positive thing with askmyGP that we really liked is being able to have the right people seeing the right person and with more continuity of care.
I was gently sceptical, having tried in other practices systems that maybe came before this, like telephone triage based systems, and I was cynical of that because that hadn't been a success where I was. Whereas this is completely different, and I thought that I would know it and I didn't. And the aftercare, I would say, with askmyGP is so much better. You know, there is somebody on the end of the phone.
So we were able to staff ourselves appropriately, and although it's busy, and we're still working very hard, we never expected it not to be busy, because people are still poorly. We're able to get through the workload and deal with people in a timely fashion, which is great. And it's nice coming in each day knowing that you haven't left a lot over from the day before, and that people are being seen when they need to be seen. It's feel good to be able to make sure that we're delivering the care in a timely fashion rather than worrying, and also knowing that people can come back to us if they're struggling rather than getting fed up with the appointment time or the waits on the phones. And certainly I think the staff have noticed a significant reduction in the number of phone calls that are coming into the practice. Now people have got used to the system.
I would not go back to the old system now. You know, it's the simple things, you know, the data is there that most patients don't need to actually come into the surgery. You don't need to physically see them, and the data shows it goes roughly a third, which you see face to face, you telephone or you message. And to go back to the old system where you virtually forced everyone to come in would be a step backwards.
With askmyGP, I'm busy every day, but never have anything like the horrendous days where you're seeing too many people when you're on call in our older system, and there's potential risk in that. What we have in general practice before, you'd be doing that plus all the other stuff on top. askmyGP has helped to sift out all the other stuff on top and move it around so you can do it in a reasonable time frame.
The feedback is when we speak to patients, even the older ones say, oh, I love it, such a great system. At first they were all very apprehensive.
And patients' feedback has been really positive, that they've been able to get the access in a timely fashion and to know which GP is going to be contacting them.
The idea of going back to no askmyGP, I think, would be unpalatable, really. It's just knowing that we are meeting the demand is so important. To the idea that you would go back to sort of thinking, well, who's hung up waiting in that telephone queue? What aren't we meeting? What am I not seeing? It's too much of a question now. And now we've got an answer to that. That feels so much more sustainable.